What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday, whatever day it is you're watching this. We're back with part 2 of our Financially Free at 33 series. So today we're going to be talking about, actually, we're going to be answering questions from the previous video that I did yesterday on how we became financially free at 33. And so if you haven't watched the video, go back, watch that one first, so you have a good understanding where we're at. Or if you just want to know all the questions that people asked about how you became financially free, all the stuff that we're going to film the details. That's what we're going to do today. And I brought on my lovely wife, Katie, here, who's actually the real mastermind behind this whole journey to us becoming financially free. And so she actually is going to ask the questions, and I'm going to provide some answers about how we did it. And honestly, most importantly, how you can do it. And so that's what you're here for, is that, it's cool that we did it, but we're going to lay the blueprint for you so you actually can become financially free. Because honestly, the more attention you can get back on what you want in your life, you can take away from finances. You can take away from you just worrying about just trying to get by and just make a living and live paycheck to paycheck. The more you actually focus on growth and like this opportunity for to live life and not just exist, but actually live. And that's what this is all about. So that's what we're gonna do today. So let's dive in. Okay, Katie, take it over. Some questions here.
Awesome. So question number one, you didn't just wake up one day 4 years ago wanting to be financially free. Tell me a little bit about the process behind making the decision that financial freedom was for you.
Great question. So, so I think I shared the story with Katie and our daughters about when I was probably right at the end of high school and college, that I had this deep inner desire to be a millionaire, right? So financial freedom was on the radar, but millionaire. And my whole idea was I was to be a millionaire by 30 years old. And I just had this innate desire that okay, that's what I wanted to do. I grew up in a family that was middle class. My dad was in the Air Force, my mom was a dental hygienist, and so we didn't come from money. I came from a family who they fought a lot about money, and they ended up getting divorced, separated. And I think that I actually believe that one of the biggest reasons was because of money. And so I was like, okay, this is not going to be something that's going to affect me and my relationship with my wife or my kids or anybody in my life for that matter. And so I just had the strong desire to become financially free, and to make sure that money was never an issue. Because I realized that it didn't have to be, but people just made it into a bigger deal than it needed to be. And so that's where it all stemmed from as a child. And I'll be honest with you, for my first, from when I realized this, probably 16, 17 years old, I didn't actually take any real action on it until I was probably 25, 26, 27, so almost 10 years later. But inherently, that's when I made the decision. But it took me a long time to actually take any real action on it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. So great. So going off of that, basically 25, 26, 27 years old. In the previous video, you talked about making a plan. Mm-hmm. So in the previous video, you said you gave an example with $500 of cash flow per property. So with 20 homes, you would have reached financial freedom. 20 homes seems like an insane amount, and it seems overwhelming to even start. What was the first tactical thing that you did in order to become financially free?
Yeah. So I think it's understanding what vehicle you want to use. And so for me, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which if you haven't read that, is it was one of the fundamental books that changed my perception on what actual freedom was. Because for a long time, I thought that accumulation of money, having money in the bank, having a whole bunch of money in the stock market was the way to financial freedom, where I had this nest egg and you lived off the interest. That's what everybody tells you. And that's what I just thought it was, right? And I started doing that. I'm like, man, this doesn't seem like this seems going to take forever. I had to wait till I was 60 years old to become financially free. I was like, it's a long time. I wasn't willing to wait that long. And so then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he basically talked about how you can use real estate and the cash from real estate to become financially free, and it basically pay your bills without you having to work. And I was like, that sounds cool. I want to do that. And so it was just a thought at first. And so I read that book in 2000. So we bought our first house in 2017. I read that book in 2014, I think it was. So it took me 3 years to read that book. I went deep on Kiyosaki, learned a lot about real estate, listened to a bunch of podcasts, and it wasn't until 3 years later we actually bought our first property together. And that was just a straight rental, or excuse me, a straight house that we lived in. And then for 2 more years later, we actually bought our first investment property. So it was 5 years after I realized I wanted to do it that actually that happened. But the reason why it took so long is because I actually didn't have a real concrete plan how to do it. I was just kind of floating through it. I kind of knew what I wanted, so I was kind of going that direction. But I would have done a lot faster if I would have known that, hey, I actually want to buy real estate and I need to buy for $500 a month or whatever it may be. I'm just using that number. So yeah. My plan was not as organized as I would recommend for somebody else to have.
Okay, that's great. Organization. You've had a taste of that nest egg that you talked about, wanting to become a millionaire, having some money in the bank. Tell me what the difference between the feeling in your gut was between the massive amount of money in the bank versus the active cash flow coming in every month.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first time, I guess guess we'll be transparent here. So the first time that we had $100,000 in the bank, we thought it like we celebrated, right? It was like cool. We gave each other a high five. I sent her a screenshot. It was cool. Like it was really fun to accomplish that. But then shortly after, a couple of days, maybe a week later, all of a sudden it got really scary because like we have all this money. What do we do with it? Like we thought we were gonna feel secure. We thought we were gonna feel safe. Like okay, like we're good. But it seemed like it got even. We felt like we were even more. What's the word I'm looking for? Like what's the word I'm looking for? Like trapped. Like we were almost trapped. Now it's like, what do we do with the money, right? So now we're afraid of losing it. Like what if we lose it? All of a sudden like you don't fear something you don't have, and all of a sudden when you have it, then you fear it. And so quickly I realized that this accumulation mindset was like it makes you go crazy. It makes you think crazy thoughts. And so it was really easy for us to make this transition to like taking that money, that nest egg, and putting it into something that actually gave us an income every single month. And COVID was a great example of that, and just being able to like not really get too stressed about it because we already had some income coming in from our real estate during COVID, where everything like all businesses shut down except for what? Except for like housing, right? You always got a place to rest your head at night. And so that's where I really started to realize the real power of cash flow over having a nest egg, and all day long, give me cash flow over money in the bank, 100%.
Awesome. So it took you 3 years from the time that you read Rich Dad Poor Dad to your first actual purchase. Mm-hmm. Did you give yourself a timeline or like a goal when you said you wanted to be financially free by X? Like obviously you said you wanted to be a millionaire by 30, but yeah. Once you got your first primary home under your belt, what was the next like goal that you had set? Did you give yourself a timeline?
No, I didn't. At that point I was just trying to learn the game. I was trying to understand how real estate worked, and I find for me personally the best way for me to learn something is by doing. And the only way I was going to learn is by doing. Obviously, I read all the books, read all the podcasts. I got mentors, but the only way that I truly believe that you actually learn is by doing. And so it wasn't actually until we actually bought our first investment property that I was like, oh, now I understand. Here's how it works. And then boom, then we start going. Now all of a sudden, once I understood how it worked, then it was really easy for me to say, okay, now if we do this 20 more times, 10 more times, 15 more times, then we could create enough cash flow that we don't ever have to work ever again if we don't want to. So
that's great. What's one piece of advice you would give somebody who is not actively investing in real estate in terms of wanting to actively invest in real estate? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
One piece of advice, man. I'll say it really comes down to, I'm going to give two pieces. I'm going to over-deliver here because I think they go together. I think number one is you got to understand, right? So it's just like until you understand how the game works, you won't really go 100%. You won't know how to create a plan. You won't know what are the steps to take until you understand. So I think the easiest way, the freest way, the thing that everyone has when you don't have money, you don't have any real estate, is you have time. And so use your time wisely. And so instead of you going out and partying, which is something that I did for a long time, me and Katie both did that for a long time, instead of like wasting our time drinking, doing things that didn't better our lives, and we weren't investing in ourselves, use that time to invest in yourself. Go read, go learn, go find somebody. Like I did all these things. So I found somebody who I read all the books I could, I listened to podcasts, and I found mentors, people who were doing what I was doing. And these people don't have to be like super successful people. They just have to be a little bit ahead of you, right? Now, if you can find someone who's like way ahead of you and they're willing to, entertain you and if you can find ways to get value to them, great. So I would say educate yourself and get a mentor, or someone you can listen to, and they can tell you the step-by-step process, whether that be like an actual physical mentor in person or whether you find someone on the internet, YouTube, whatever it may be. I always think that mentorship is the quickest way to you getting from where you're at to where you want to be in the shortest distance possible.
That's great. So you've obviously bought some real estate.
Yes, fact.
How do you know what real estate to buy?
That's actually a good question. Numbers, right? Real estate is just numbers. And as much as people want to think about it's so expensive to live here, it's my favorite thing to say, it's so expensive. In comparison to what? Right? Like money it's just numbers. It's just ones, twos, threes, fours, fives, six, seven, eight, nines, and tens. That's literally all it is. And so you say, okay, well, to live in San Francisco, California, it's really expensive. Compared to what? Right? And if you're gonna invest, it's like if you put down, again, let's just say that after everything, you have a mortgage of $2,000 in San Francisco, California. But if you know that you can command a rent of $3,000, is it expensive then? So it literally just comes on numbers. And so when the question is, well, how do you know what real estate to invest in? You got to do the numbers. So again, if you're playing the cash flow game, which is something I highly recommend, you just literally got to know what the market rents are. And so if you know you can get X amount of dollars, let's say it's $2,500, and you know that your mortgage plus your taxes, insurance, everything all included is going to be about, let's say $2,000, and there's a $500 spread in there. Well, then it's not expensive. Then it's a good deal, right? Because all of a sudden now real estate is paying you. So yeah, when it comes to understanding deals, it's just numbers. Like money is just math, and real estate is just numbers.
Numbers.
Just numbers. I know, so simple.
Crunch some numbers.
Sorry.
How do you have you ever invested in a property that has not cash flowed?
Um, no. Um, the answer is no. We have properties where we had to do some rehab stuff. So maybe there's temporary moments where we didn't cash flow, but the numbers always have worked long term for it to cash flow. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, the only thing I would say is that if you're going to buy a primary residence, your first house might not cash flow. So I guess to answer your question, our very first house did not cash flow because we lived in it, but it also gave us a position that allowed us to move to the next property. And so if that's the situation you're in, then that's the only other time where I recommend that. If you don't have any real estate you're renting, then you should buy a primary house. And while technically it's not cash flowing, at least you can build some equity. Instead of paying rent, now you're paying your mortgage down. And if you get really smart, you can buy something that has multiple units, or you can rent out bedrooms or garages or things like that in your house to make it have less of a liability, or you can just rent out enough space in your house that it actually cash flows. So I guess the answer to that question is on your primary, that'll be the only place that you might potentially not cash flow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you scared of the future? What's going to happen to the real estate market?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And if you're watching this and you're thinking about real estate, you're like, man, it's so expensive. Like I missed my opportunity. Like it's just getting started. Like now is the best opportunity to get into real estate. I want to say it's not easier than ever, but it's more lucrative than ever because I really think there is actually going to be a gap the next 3 to 5 years that if you get into real estate now, it's going to like take care of you for the rest of your life. And maybe the next 5 years, maybe things might do change. So yeah, so now is the time to get into real estate. It is the best time. If it seems expensive now, just think back to where you were 5 years ago and everyone thought it was expensive then, right? And in the next 5 years, guess what people are going to think? It's expensive then too, right? It's going to keep going up. So yeah, get in now, 100%.
Obviously, the first couple properties you bought took cash.
Yep.
How'd you get all that cash to put down on a down payment?
Yeah. We had a business, right? And I talked about in the last video, our businesses, they took off, and plain and simple. And, I think we're not the only people whose businesses eventually after, years and years and years of struggling and living like very, very poor, that if we finally hit the next level, the skill set that took us to the next level for our business to provide the cash flow that we could actually, now we have money, and instead of spending that on buying fancy cars, fancy houses, expensive trips, we literally just like save that money to invest it, right? I think most people, number one, they don't even save the money. They just go and spend it. They go buy stupid stuff like cars and like personal houses for yourself, which I actually don't recommend that. Buying like a stupid house for yourself, like you should buy a house like you should with the intention that you're going to turn into investment. That's actually what I would recommend. But we save the money, right? We literally save the money and then we put it down on this house. And the first time that like I said in the last video, I think the first house we put down $66,000. So the first time we saw that money go out the bank account, it was like, yeah, I was like, shit, right? But that's what you got to do. You just got to have that investor mindset. And like we're like so much in love with investing that like it was easy for us to save that money, to invest it, and not spend it on dumb stuff. And honestly, like now, like we're to the place where we can start to buy some dumb stuff, and we can start to like take the trips and things like that. But we spent a long time falling in love with investing. We're still in love with investing, but now we actually do like, use the money to actually buy some dumb stuff and have some fun stuff at the same time. So it's not just literally about just saving money and investing your whole life. You got to have the fun stuff, but most people aren't. They're not willing to pay the price to pay anything that they want in the future. And that's something that we made the decision that we were going to pay the price today so we can pay anything we want in the future. So patience, exactly.
Awesome. So obviously real estate it can be complicated, right? Somebody who comes in is like, whoa, like the first closing we were ever at was really like kind of an eye-opener as to what actually goes into this process. So do you have a team who helps you find, finance, and rent these properties, manage them? Tell me a little bit about your team.
Yeah, so it's always important to have a team, and when you get in real estate, you can't do it on your own. You need to have a team, and you want a team, honestly. And so the team that you like 100% need is you need a real estate agent to go out there and find the deals, talk on your behalf, negotiate on your behalf, and the second piece is you need a lender, and probably not just one lender, and not just one the real estate agent. I actually recommend talking to lots of agents, have lots of lenders, and that way you have you have many options because people are busy, and that's especially the market right now that everyone's super busy, and so you need to have multiple lenders. So go talk to lenders, go establish relationships, go talk to real estate agents, go establish relationships, have multiple people looking for deals for you. So those are like the two main ones that you need. And then as far as depending on what type of real estate you're getting into, like if you are going to be doing like rehabs, construction things, then obviously you need a contractor as well. And so those are probably the three people that you absolutely need. Is you're gonna need a real estate agent, you need a lender, and then if you're going to do any like rehab type work or any like upgrades, like value add stuff, you're gonna need a contractor as well. So and then when it comes to property manager, it just depends. Like if you're doing stuff out of state, you definitely need a property manager. If you're doing stuff in person, I should recommend you like managing it for yourself at least for a period of time. Even if you definitely know you don't want to be a property manager, you need to at least manage it for a long period of time to understand like what you're looking for. So then you can eventually give it to somebody else, or know like the person you're hiring, like know that they are competent, right? Like if you don't know what it takes, then how are you gonna know how to hire someone who's competent? And so that's why I'm a big believer of like go first, understand how it works, and then move on. Now, if you're out of state, you obviously can't do that. So then you have to just like be able to trust somebody. But if you're doing it local, I recommend you definitely do it first, for sure. So those are the three people, and then the fourth person would be like a property manager.
Cool, great. Build your team.
Build your team, yeah. And then from there, and like sorry, just no. Like and then from there, like if you have the right property manager, then you can find the plumbers, you can find the handymans, you find all the stuff that kind of comes through that process. So
awesome. So we've had to get creative in everything that we were doing. So what would you recommend? Let's talk about creativity. Tell me about creativity.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the cool part about real estate is that very much is like a creative game. Like whatever you can think of, you can imagine, right? And so the creativity piece is a big component. And yeah, sometimes when you have no money or you have no resources, like you have to get creative. And so there's lots of ways to do real estate, whether there's no money down, whether it's like having partnerships, whether it's just like just all terms. And that's the cool thing about real estate. It's literally just about terms.
Awesome. That's great. That's all the questions I have for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, thank you for the questions. And if you guys liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff down below. We'll be coming out with more videos. And thank you, Katie, for asking questions and for hopping on here, and honestly for being like really just the rock and the anchor for making the ship, just not the anchor, the rock actually, be the propeller and the fuel to keep this machine rocking and rolling. So appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right. Chat to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.